This year, for Thanksgiving, my family and I, we got together. But it's been interesting to kind of watch over the last few years, just like the development happen where we've kind of started to age out of going to grandma's house, right? I only have one grandparent that's still alive, and so we used to just do grandparents and then grandparents and then just run around all over the place for Thanksgiving. What's actually really nice, though, is I got together with my family, so it was my sister and myself, her family, my mom and dad, and we just had lunch at my parents' house. But what was interesting was after the fact, Thanksgiving on my dad's side of the family, we used to all eat lunch, and then my grandfather for years and years and years now, so it's probably somewhere in the 18, 20 years now, he's been setting up a big nativity scene in the front of his house. So he would bring about right by St. Mary's on your way into Raceland, to the right before you get to the church. Big nativity scene, spotlights on it. If you stop and look at it, he actually always had a boombox in it playing Magic 101.9 with Christmas music. So if you ever stopped, took a picture, like you could even hear Christmas music, which is all fine and dandy until like you hear Santa Baby or that god-awful Mariah Carey song, and even Jesus is going, please just stop it, right? Or right after Christmas when they stop playing it and we forget to take it off, and then you have like Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven playing, and Jesus is just chilled out, and it's like, I don't think Jesus would be chilling out listening to that. But anyway, but it was what we would always do is on Thanksgiving afternoon, after we would eat, we would go out, and my grandfather would start putting everything out. And then as he got older and more infirmed, like my uncles and my aunts would do it, and then when he passed away, we would still do it. So it's almost like a little like ritual that we do as a family. We all get together and we all head out and go and set up the crib together, right? So it's just we had a really, really good time, and goofing off and kidding around and all this kind of stuff like we always do. But what was striking me about it was how preparation for something with Christmas has worked its way into Thanksgiving, right? I find culturally speaking, some people think that Christmas starts right after Halloween, and those people are, a very technical word, wrong. That, like, at least culturally speaking, right, like, it used to be that you watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and then once you see Santa at the end of that, that ushered in Christmas season, and that ushered in the Christmas shopping season, and that ushered in, like, the battle royale that was Black Friday, and is Black Friday, and Cyber Monday, and all those things, right? Culturally speaking, right, when we finish Thanksgiving, we start to anticipate Christmas, right? Thanksgiving is almost like Christmas part one, like Christmas without the presents, right? You still got to figure out how we're going to like navigate all the drama and all the issues of everybody. We had to get everybody in the same house schedule-wise. We got to make sure all the food is good and all those kind of things. Like we do the test run for Thanksgiving, and then for Christmas, it's like perfected and ready to go with presents, right? I find it's interesting that our culture anticipates. Our culture starts to like build up to Christmas, right? Culturally speaking, not the religious holiday part of it, but just like the cultural festivities part of it, right? There's a reason why Hallmark is going to start playing the same movie over and over and over, back to back to back. Everybody, it's the same thing. It's the same plot. They all end happily ever after, right? Everything's okay. She gets the girl. He gets the girl. The farm gets saved. The Christmas festival happens. They have big lights on the house, like all those things. But anyway, like all these things happen in anticipation pointing to Christmas. And our culture starts that, which is interesting because we in the church, we do the same thing. Right? As we kick off Advent, we kick off a new liturgical year. We kick off a season of preparation. That's why we wear purple, right? It's a season of preparation and of purgation, right? It's a looking forward and looking inside. How do we prepare ourselves interiorly for the coming of Christ? Now, there's one big distinction. Because what happens is that sometimes the cultural anticipation and the church anticipation, like sometimes those can kind of be conflated together, and it's not supposed to be. Because the end goal, the difference between the two is what are we preparing for? Our culture prepares for an event. Our culture prepares for a day. Our culture is very, very excited about having everybody around the table, right? Just like Thanksgiving, but giving presents and having trees and the garland and having all the lights and having all the decorations set up, right? There's a reason why every family, every husband has heard this statement at some point in the last week. hey, you need to go get the decorations out of the shed, the attic, the back, the whatever, like wherever we store stuff. Like, you need to go get the thing, and they need to bring it out, and then they're going to open it, and then what's going to happen is, I don't want to use any of this stuff because it's dated, so they're going to go to Hobby Lobby, and they're going to spend too much money on all kind of new decorations, right? And if that's not you, then I apologize, that just outed my mom. But what happens is that we have this like cultural move of looking forward to an event. And it's exciting. And it's fun. And it's something that like we count down to. We might even have like the little Advent calendar, right? Where we're really just counting down to 25 days and it just happens to coincide with Advent this year, but that doesn't normally happen, right? Where we just kind of work our way through the month, right? 25 days of Christmas and 25 days of this and 25 Christmas carols, whatever. Like there's all these different things that we point to as we look forward to an event. I know as like a kid, going to church whenever I was a kid, like I would look at the Advent wreath and that's all I looked at it as, was basically a week-long countdown, right? Oh, 1 candle, 2 candles, the pink one, 4th candle, that means I'm getting presents in a couple of days, right? All right, this is going to be fun. There's a countdown that takes place, but it's a countdown for an event. The thing about events is that when they're over, they become memories and that's it. We might have some good pictures. We might have some good memories. We might have some good stories. We might be able to talk a little bit about it, be excited about it. But for the most part, if we approach Christmas as if it is only an event, only a one-time thing, then by December 27th, we're ready to tear everything down and move on. Because it's a memory. And it's a picture. And it's a pile of new stuff that in 3 weeks, we're going to forget we quote-unquote got it for Christmas. That's how our culture prepares for Christmas. But in the church, we have this season called Advent for a reason. Because it's a preparation for a person. We're not preparing for an event. We're preparing for the coming of a person at Christmas. We're preparing for a person to enter into our life in a new way. We're preparing for a person to come and dwell with us. God with us, Emmanuel. O come, Emmanuel. O come and come, God be with us, right? We're preparing for a person to enter into my life in a drastic and profound way. We can think of that as like a visitor. We can think of that as like somebody just come and spend the weekend. So we might need to we need to prepare and make sure we have like clean towels in the bathroom and that's about it. And then they're going to leave. No. The preparing for a person at Christmas is much more like a pregnant woman preparing for her baby. When a family is about to have a baby, when a new husband and a new wife find out that they are pregnant, they realize that in 9 months, everything about my life is about to change. Everything. What gets me out of bed, what I do with all of my free time, what I do with like when I eat, when I sleep, how I associate with the rest of the world, everything changes. Every priority in my life changes. Every focus of my life changes. Everything that I do at all is done in a different way. It's a profound reordering of everything about me. That's what it means to prepare for a person. Namely, the person of Jesus Christ. Coming at Christmas, O come, Emmanuel, O come, God be with us. We wait in anticipation for the coming of Christ. We wait in extreme participation, like for the goodness that is coming, like we have an equal amount of anticipation that builds up to it, right? Like there is something profound and powerful about like the excitement as we get closer and closer to Christmas, because there's a preparation that takes place in our hearts that we start to expand and open up and allow the Lord a place to dwell and a place to stay. It's got a lot longer lasting effect than just an event. A memory, a couple of pictures. That's about it. When I was in my first year of college, it was So my first year was when I went to LSU was 2007. And in 2007, when I was going to LSU, I was majoring in engineering. But in reality, my real major was this thing called student tickets. I went to every sporting event all the time, right? Like, I remember when I was like 10 years old, walked into Tiger Stadium for the first time with my dad. We'll play in San Jose State. It was the last year, Jerry DiNardo, thank God. And I remember standing in the stadium, and the band is coming out in the field, and they did the four-corner salute of the bump, 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 and they did all this stuff. And I watched pregame, and I grabbed my dad's arm, and I just like yanked on it and I said, I'm coming to school here. And he was like, really? I said, yeah. And he thought that I meant like, I'm going to play football here. No, I'm going to be a dumb fan and drunk fan in the front row, right? Like, that's who I want to be. Like, I'm so excited about being in the stadium. This is going to be great. I never did that. Don't worry. But anyway, I remember my first year, though. It was the first game of the season. LSU, number 2 in the nation, was playing Virginia Tech, number 9. It was a home game, and College Game Day was there. I was one of the Couillons in the front row with the orange helmet, like, freaking out. We picked a buddy of mine up, so if you watch the clip, you can actually see my buddy like this in between Corso while he's putting the head on. But anyway, I just remember like all of these things. We'd gone through all this stuff. The general admission, it was general admission to get into the stadium. And I remember we were talking, we were like, my little group of friends, we were like, we want to get there early. We want to make sure we have a good spot. We want to be up in the front. And we knew you had to get there at like a crazy early time. Game kicked off at 7. We got in line at like 11 a.m. And I remember, that's a work day, y'all, like before kickoff. And I remember watching people like enjoying themselves tailgating, and I'm like, I'm getting a good seat. I can't wait. When we got there, we were about the 400th people that were in line for the student section. And I just remember, like, I'm like amped up, I'm fired up, and I'm just focused on the gate like this for like 4 hours, right? Like I'm just staring at the gate, waiting for them to open it up. They finally opened the gates. They open the gates usually about 3 hours, 4 hours before kickoff, whatever it is. And we are sitting there and we are locked in. This is where we're going to be. I wasn't going to the bathroom. I wasn't eating anything, whatever. I was there and I was ready to go. A couple of the upperclassmen that had been there since like 5 a.m. because they were dumb, right? Like, because 11 a.m. is reasonable, but 5 a.m. is dumb. But like, I remember just standing, like, we were standing behind them. And when it got close to the gates opening, maybe about 45 minutes or so before, what the upperclassmen started doing is that they started a countdown. And they started to just mess with us. So what they would do is they would just start 10, 9, 3, 2, 1. Ah! And like they would start rattling the gates, and like we're all fired up and we're thinking, yeah, the gates are open. Now I knew when the gates open, you got to run to your spots, general admission, right? So like we're sitting there and we're like, yeah, and we start pushing forward, and it's like, they rattle in the gates, and all of a sudden they just stop and they just go, oh, and I'm like, you bunch of jerks, right? Like the gates didn't open. It was a prank. I'm like, I hate every last one of you. And they kept doing this every like 10 minutes just to keep messing with us freshmen because we didn't know any better. But they kept doing this, and they would count down, and the anticipation would build up, and everybody would get excited, and then at some point they would just be like, oh, let down. Why do I say that? Because I think this is how we approach Advent at least most Catholics. I think we approach Advent this way. We start out by saying, I can't wait. This is going to be great. It's going to be the best Advent ever. I'm going to push through. I'm going to prepare a spot. I'm going to prepare really, really well. I'm going to approach Christmas in a different way. And at some point, we fall into the world's way of preparing, the world's way of counting down, and we lose sight of the main thing. We lose sight of the Lord. And all of a sudden, Christmas starts where it's 3, 2, 1, Christmas, and then a letdown. Because the event passes. And nothing's different. Where we're gonna count down that it's gonna be different this year, and I'm gonna focus on the Lord. I'm gonna prepare myself internally and all those kind of things, and then finals hits, and all of a sudden it's just okay. I let go of all those things, and now what happens? Well, I might as well just do what the world does. And by December 27th, we got a pile of stuff, a few pictures, a lot of leftovers, and Christmas is a memory. The best way to finish Advent well is to start Advent well. And how do we start Advent well? How do we approach Advent today, tonight, right now, differently than we have in the past? The two options and practical things for us today. First is to make room. Give God space. The interesting thing about Advent is that there's almost like a quiet to the season. There isn't a whole lot of action. If we think about Mary and Joseph in the 9th month of pregnancy, right? They're not doing a whole lot, right? They're traveling, that's about it. But like they got to get to Bethlehem. But outside of that, it really is kind of a quiet, a kind of hidden kind of space, a kind of quiet and a kind of hidden kind of season. Can we embrace quiet? Like, can we give God space 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes a day and just embrace a little bit of quiet? Might mean waking up before 15 minutes, 20 minutes before I normally do. Might mean taking my phone off at certain times, leaving it in the other room, and getting back to those texts in 20 minutes. Chances are 20 minutes is not going to be an emergency. But can I embrace some quiet and give God space in my day? Dedicated space. That nothing else is more important. That it's a space for you, Lord. And secondly, do we know who we're preparing for? Not just know about Jesus, that he kind of was like this hippie guy that was walking around homeless and saying some cool stuff. Not just this guy that like did like some miracles, but do we know him? Have we gotten to know him in the scriptures? A priest friend of mine a few years back, and right now we're starting off year C. So there's year A, B, and C when it comes to the lectionary that we roll through 3 different years worth of readings. Year A is from the Gospel of Matthew, year B is the Gospel of Mark, and year C is the Gospel of Luke. Year C being the Gospel of Luke, if you know this, the Gospel of Luke has 24 chapters in the Gospel of Luke. So that means if you do tonight, before you go to bed, and read the first chapter, and read a chapter a day for the next 24 days, it'll be Christmas Eve, and you have read and prayed with a biography of Jesus. Starting at the point of his beginning of his life. Starting at the earliest point of Jesus' life, the infancy narratives, and going all the way through the resurrection. Can we give space to the Lord, and can we get to know the Lord in his word? Now, there are plenty of different resources. There are plenty of different podcasts and videos and all these things that will help us kind of enter into Advent. But I honestly think we don't have to get too creative. That if we just take a gospel and we take time and we actually give the Lord the space to speak to us, to reveal himself to us so that we can get to know him better, what happens is that now we're getting to know a person throughout the next month as opposed to just preparing for an event. We prepare for Advent. We prepare during Advent for the coming of Christ. One of the church fathers had actually said that there are three comings of Christ that we'll experience. The first one has passed already and is what we embrace and what we celebrate in 25 days at Christmas. The next one is at the end of our life and at the end of time, when the coming of Christ happens again, that he's coming again. There's a second coming of Christ that we experience. And the third place that we experience the coming of Christ is every time we come to the sacraments. So in the same way that we prepare a place during this Advent season, we also, throughout this Mass, prepare a place so that we can receive the Lord, that we can get to know him through his word, that we can come before him and give him space so that he can come to meet us. May in this Mass, may in our Advent season and our celebration of Christmas, may the Lord come to us and meet us where we need him. Just imagine if this Advent actually would be a fulfilling Advent. What's Christmas morning going to feel like? Not just getting excited for an event. Won't be 3, 2, 1, ha, ha, oh. but instead, Advent could be a time of preparation, and Christmas can be a time that actually changes us, actually impacts us, and actually has an effect. May this Advent, we prepare well, not for an event, not for a moment, not for pictures and a memory or a dinner, but may we prepare for the coming of our Lord, a person.